You are listening to Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Hey everybody, welcome into another episode of the Digging In Podcast presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors. I'm your host, Kenjo Kelly, helping you get those questions answered to and through retirement. Today, we are joined by another new addition to the Rooted Wealth Advisors family. His name is Andrew Lee. He's got the best mustache in the office. He just turned 22, and he might be one of the brightest up-and-coming minds in our industry and definitely in our office here. Welcome, Andrew and Andrew's mustache to the program.
How are we doing today? Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
I mean, it's been a running joke, but the mustache looks good, man. The mustache looks good.
Yes, don't have the best genetics hair-wise, but we do what we can.
Hey, you're working on it. It looks very handsome. You look very nice today. Got your pictures taken. We're excited to have you here, part of the family here. Tell us a little bit about your journey and like what brought you to Rooted.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Pontiac, Illinois. Went to high school there. Played sports, regular kid stuff. Got into some trouble, all that jazz.
Not too much, just a little bit?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Nothing serious. Ended up going to Monmouth College. I swam there for 2 years. Decided I had enough of that. Transferred to Illinois State University to further my education and graduated with an economics degree. And somehow I found my way here.
There you go. There you go. That's really cool. Econ and what else there was another part of the major too, right?
Business admin minor.
Business admin, right. That's a lot to say. So what is your position here and what do you specialize in?
So I'm a utility player here at Rooted. So do a little bit of everything where I can to help out. Been doing a lot of stuff for marketing, as you know. And slowly starting to dip my toes into operations in the back, dealing with some clients and some security benefits, things like that. So
yeah, that's awesome. I didn't think too many people's brain worked the same way Jackson's worked. I thought Jackson was kind of like a one of one when I met him. Like he had like the Matrix kind of running in his eyeballs and all that fun stuff. And I was like, and then when I met you, I was like, oh, there's another guy that's kind of like Jackson.
Yeah,
very bright, good with numbers, and you love the data, the numbers aspect, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't compare myself to Jackson quite yet. Very smart guy, but yeah, I've always liked the numbers because, as they say, the data doesn't lie. So.
And you've been very instrumental here in helping everybody kind of lay out their processes, and that's got to be, I'm sure some of it's been tedious, but I bet it's been at least a little eye-opening to kind of getting a full view of like what independent financial advisor's office looks like, how people inside of it operate, what their roles and responsibilities are. As kind of like your first position out of the gate, you basically get to shadow everybody and write down everything they do, like to help as we're growing and transitioning and training other new people. Yeah,
it was definitely a challenge, but I like to look at everything with a positive. So for me, it's just very beneficial to see how everything works in this type of business, in finance and that thing. So I feel like it's just benefiting me. So that way, when I move on to whatever position it is, I kind of have little pieces of everything and can go from there.
That's awesome, man. It's really cool to have that complete puzzle together with all those pieces. Have you learned anything here in your 2 months here that you've because you're a young guy, right? You just turned 22. So it's like, as you're thinking about retirement in the next, 5 to 10 years at your trajectory, have you taken anything away that you've heard from Zach or John or Joe, or it's very beneficial to be around all these financially smart people, right? And has there been anything that you've kind of taken away from it so far?
I would say the biggest thing is taxes. So I've never really, been into taxes. I love finance and everything about it, but taxes, I was always stay away from that. Doesn't really matter, you can't really do anything to avoid it. But, especially being around John, I realized that there's a lot of little things you can do to just make it easier on yourself.
Every little bit helps, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's certain things you can do now to help avoid paying more taxes in the future, right? Like a Roth, a 401k, for example, right? That's awesome. That's awesome that you've learned that. Let's go back to Andrew when you were a kid, which wasn't that long ago. We're talking like 3 years ago, right? What was your first memory of money? Like, were you the kid that worked at the local diner, washing dishes, saving money? Did you have a paper route? Were you the saver? Were you the spender? Probably in Pontiac, I don't know that there are too many options. What is there? Working at the Casey's or working in a cornfield somewhere?
Yep.
Those are my two guesses for you.
Yeah, that's about it. There's
All right.
a few more, but hey, you can't complain, being a farmer.
Hey, there you go. No, absolutely no complaining there. I come from a ag family, so I spent about a decade of my life working for my dad or his company in some capacity, like walking miles and miles endlessly in corn and soybeans and pollinating and doing stand counts and roguing and thinning and hand harvesting corn. You ever hand harvested corn before?
I have not.
Takes a lot of work out of you. So I got nothing but love for farmers. So what was your first memory of money?
Yeah, so I grew up working at a trucking company that my grandpa started, and all I did was wash trucks as a kid. So really my first memory was, the allowance that, most kids get, a little allowance. And, it might be $20 every 2 weeks or just something small like that. And I will say I quickly learned that, you go and you blow that real quick, and then you're like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. I need more.
It goes out a lot faster than it comes in.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's what you learn as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So what was Andrew blowing your truck washing money on?
I was into the, I guess they'd be model cars. So like late models, for any of you out there that are familiar with dirt track racing. I would spend my money on, little dirt cars.
Very cool. Very cool. Everybody's got their own thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
a little niche.
Yeah, that's what makes the world go around, right? That's pretty cool. So what was it that you learned specifically about money then?
Well, I learned that it goes out a lot quicker than it comes in, but also that if you want more, in a sense, there's a way to get more. You just got to work for it. It doesn't come easy. No handouts in my family, at least. So.
Yeah. And so, what did you do to work more for it?
I started washing more trucks and faster.
There you go. You refined your process, right?
Yeah.
You got a little better at it.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So what was? I mean, you're very early in starting out, like in your career path. What do you think has been your best financial decision to date?
Oh boy.
See, a lot of us old timers have been around long enough to make some big mistakes, right? We all have different stories of mistakes. I know John tells a story about him blowing a fairly large sum of money on clothes and a computer and stuff like that. And those might be some needs, but they were excessive, right? I've paid my fair share of stupid tax. I've not done my due diligence on cars when I bought them and they broke 2 weeks later, and there's some stupid tax along the way. So have you paid any stupid tax, so to speak?
Yes. To start off with, my best financial decision, I would say, now this is going to sound really cheesy, but I bought Benjamin Graham's book, The Intelligent Investor. So, I was watching a video when I was getting into finance and stuff, and this guy mentioned this book, how it's one of the greatest financial books, ever written, and it's been revised by other people. But I bought that book, and I remember I took a $20 bill, and I wrote on it, and I was like, this is my first investment for myself, on myself. I'm investing in myself.
Yeah.
And so I read through the book, and but I actually, what's interesting is I remember I went one time, I was like, there's a $20 bill in that book, because that was my placeholder. And I was like, I'm about to go grab it and go spend it on something. But then I remember I wrote on it, and I read what I wrote, and I was like, nah, I can't do that.
Right.
So to me, and it's really eye-opening even for yourself, having something like that happen. But to me, that was definitely my best financial decision.
And that's super smart too, because then you kind of have like a trigger to be like, oh, I've written on this. Is this really what I want to do? Because I made a commitment to myself at another time that I wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I think for a lot of like young professionals like yourself, there's so much to be learned from investing in yourself and getting coaching and personal growth and development. I think I've been the benefactor of a lot of that over the years on different places I work. There are some companies that I worked at didn't really care about personal development or whatever. It's like you show up, you do the job, you go home. Then there's other companies that really took it serious and they really wanted to help people grow. I got to sit in with like Andy Andrews, Bo Eason, Tony Robbins. I got to, rub shoulders with a lot of very influential coaches who spent their entire, professional careers kind of building into other people. So absorbing that as much as you can, as fast as you can, while you're still young and you've got your whole career trajectory ahead of you, only sets you up for success, man. And that's super cool to see. And you tossed in your best. You didn't give me your worst.
I can give you my worst.
You didn't give me your worst. You gave me your best. So I want to hear the worst too.
Well, are we trying to get a little controversial, or are we just?
Oh, I'll leave that in your court.
Well, I'll start off with kind of my worst and a little inside joke here. So I went through a phase senior year of high school up into college, and I was wanted to be fashionable, like anybody, but I'd buy ripped jeans because that I thought was in at the time, might not have ever been in, but so I would say the worst financial decision is buying those ripped jeans because I'm paying for not even a whole jean.
Not even a whole pair of pants. Yeah. And you paid more.
And I paid more, yeah. Paid a premium.
It is a little bit of an inside joke for those of you watching. We had a team dinner just a few weeks ago. The dress code was just casual, and most of us showed up in what we would pretty typically wear to work, maybe some shorts and some polos and stuff like that. But Andrew did walk in with
Not this guy.
some ripped jeans. To be fair, I think you just got done fishing or something.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I was running a little late.
Yeah, so that's all right, man. Where do you, just starting out in your career path and all this stuff, where do you find inspiration to really just to be your best self, to bring your A game every day?
So for me, it's a lot of, I watch a lot of YouTube videos and listen to a lot of podcasts, and most of my inspiration comes from, people on those podcasts, whether it's like an Elon Musk podcast, or I listen to Joe Rogan a lot, and he might have some guest on. But just seeing these people do extraordinary things is inspirational for me, because I think, well, why can't I do that? Mm-hmm. Why can't anybody not do that, So...
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, we won't pull a Joe Rogan and go 2-3 hours deep on this podcast. But yeah, I would say looking around you and seeing what's possible, right? We had a coaching call for our team just the other day that was helping people understand not just, achieving their goals, but their dreams. And that dream is a whole other level. And it's what is that, and how can we help not only our clients get there, but also each other as teammates? And is there anything I can do that would help you on your way? Is there any knowledge or anything I can impart or show you kind of the way, or even learn from mistakes I've made, right? That's been super cool.
Yeah, and like we talked the other day, kind of, there's a lot of valuable information out there everywhere on the internet, Obviously, not all information is valuable, but so it's nice to think about what can we provide different, and it's how can we be leaders in somebody's life, it's like we talked about the other day, to get them to those goals and even beyond their goals, instead of just giving them information. Mm-hmm. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. What has been your favorite part about working here so far in the 2 months you've been here?
Oh boy, I love it all. I would say just the environment here is really cool. We're all I would say pretty close for coworkers. So yeah, I'd say the environment.
It's like a small family here. Like,
It is.
I've never worked in a place where, my employee number was a single digit before. Been part of a lot of larger companies where it was in the hundreds or thousands or maybe even millions. But we do spend a ton of time together, right? And we're always interacting. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not always sunshine and roses, right?
No, of course not.
Sometimes we see things from different points of view, but I always think that that's a good thing because we always have our client's best interests at heart, number one, and then what's right for us, right? What's right for the business that Zach built. I know you're still new around here, but like some of the OGs talk about the lessons they've learned from the school of Zach Gray, right? It's almost like the school of hard knocks. He just like walks around handing them out. Sometimes you need a life lesson, right?
Yeah.
Good, and sometimes I've had to learn some lessons the hard way too. Is there anything you've learned from the school of Zach Gray specifically that you can speak on?
There's definitely multiple things. I would say, first, for me personally, write everything down. I was just in a meeting with him, and he was like, "Are you writing this down?" I am now. And secondly, it kind of goes along with like appearance, I guess. Appearance means a lot. How you come off to people, how you present yourself, and I've always kind of known that, but not necessarily in this fashion. So that was a big one for me.
The line he uses for that is,
oh boy,
everything communicates.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yes, everything does.
That's it's become a very important company motto, right? And it's true. Like, and that's something I probably didn't give enough credence to before I learned that lesson from the school of Zach Gray, because it's like, well, it doesn't matter that there's a typo on an email, and it's like, well, when we're dealing with somebody's life savings and that trust that it takes to be able to hand that somebody who's worked 50, 60, 70 years for the sum of money that is their entire world, right?
Yep.
Or it's how they're going to live the rest of their days. Like a typo in an email is a big deal, because if we can't communicate effectively, like on time, T's crossed, I's dotted, that doesn't give them the confidence in us that we had to do our job on the back end of that. So that everything communicates is real, and definitely a lesson we've all had to learn.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure.
Well, cool, man. Do you have anything else to add today as we get to know Andrew Lee?
Not at the moment.
No.
Glad to be here.
All right, man. Mustache still looks fantastic. It performed
Thank you.
very well in the interview. I'm sure we'll get some comments on it below. Let us know. How big does it need to get? What's he need to do next? Fu Manchu? Does he need to curl out the ends? We'll get him some wax. Let us know. That'll do it for us today on Digging In. If you have any questions on anything you heard today, feel free to give us a call. The number's 815-918-4727. And just for calling in from the podcast, you get a copy of Zach's book, Your Retirement Lifeblood. A lot of great value in here. I can even make sure you get an autographed copy if you let us know when you call. Again, that number is 815-918-4727. That'll do it for us today. Until next time, keep digging in.
This was Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.